always good to have. First order of business is to accept the minutes of the March 29th regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Clay, second by Warren. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Bill, please.
Is it necessary to have withdrawn the motion, for the, aquaculture subcommittee, which we decided not to do? Well, not at this time.
What page?
Is it necessary to have that noted in the minute?
Well, I said that I had withdrawn it after the end of the discussion. I don't know if it was necessary or not. That's all I'm asking.
Did I neglect to put that in there?
It's not in here.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it ought to at least be reflected that it was withdrawn. So if we add that, I'm comfortable with it, unless you have a preference to make a different change, that's also
No.
fine with me.
I just wondered.
All right, well, subject to that change, any more discussion?
It was, captured a lot of lengthy discussion, so thank you. Those are long ones.
Another great job by Carrie, thanks Carrie.
Thank you.
Carrie, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, it is unanimous, the minutes are approved. Visitor comments and petitions, I see Peter Wilcox, and I can't quite read James
thanks.
Allen.
Carrie.
Oh, Carrie, okay. Is there anybody there's no one here in person, is there anybody on the Zoom call who wants to address the select board? Hearing none, ferry service update, can't remember where we were at our last meeting, but Mark Higgins has resigned. He's taken a job, I think, in the Martha's Vineyard ferry system. John King sent me.
There's a glutton in front of them.
Yeah, he's taken a job there.
That's different than the rumors.
Yeah, so but they posted the opening, and my understanding was they had quite a few applicants. I think they said, 20 applicants,
Wow.
which is more than anybody expected. I don't know about any of the applicants or who has applied or whether they're happy with applicants or have likely candidates in mind, but I do know that there were a lot of applications. So hopefully that means they'll get somebody good in there to replace Mark. Other than that, I see this letter from Lonnie talking about a shelter at the ferry. And I don't know if this is the place to talk about that, or is this,
I put it under correspondence, but it's,
okay, we'll wait then. Any questions about the ferry service while we are on topic? No, sea level rise update, Shay.
We had a meeting last week. Our next meeting is next Thursday. We are really just still in the orientation process with Sri so that she can get up to speed to be able to write an RFP for an engineering report at the members. So not much new to report.
Any questions before we move on? Hearing none, update on the municipal building project, Lauren.
Oh, we have a interview with prospective contract managers, and it looks like it's not done deal, but it looks like it's gonna be May 2nd in Camden. And last I heard, there are gonna be 4 applicants to that. And that will be Pete Anderson, Jay Zlakowski, and Bill Boardman will do the interviews.
Are you gonna attend the interviews?
I'm not currently planning to attend. Those 3 are pretty well. I wouldn't bring much to the table.
I wouldn't say that one. I mean,
Yeah.
they're capable people, but you're a capable
Yeah.
person.
Thank you. And then the following night, we have a municipal building project committee meeting. That's where we're at.
So a little bit out before that decision gets.
I'm
A
sorry?
little bit of time before that, a couple weeks before.
Yes.
Okay, any questions for Lauren before we move on? Hearing none. Upcoming meetings and subcommittee reports, we have the planning board on April 24th. Town manager's report, Janet.
all right, I handed out, under new business, the proposed Brindle Point sticker fees that I've just, put together. Authorization to open a new account at Camden National Bank for the municipal building project, which Shay and I will sign if you authorize it. We'll go over it more when you get up to new business. And you've got the March 31st Bar Harbor Wealth Management Capital Reserve sub-accounting. FY 23-24 fiscal, financial summary, which I did after the budget was finalized, if it is finalized. Town budget comparisons, FY 20 through FY 24. And warrant number 21 that I've given you, and maybe something else that I didn't record. I had copies going here and there, and school articles, school budget, which I just got a couple of days ago. And that's it for me.
Thank you for putting together the budget comparison. I think that's a really helpful thing to see from year to year in terms of where we've been on the budget for the past few years, in terms of just bottom line, what the. I think that's really helpful. Any questions for, before we move on? Hearing none, correspondence, we have an email from Lonnie Grant, who works on the ferry service. I think everybody probably knows Lonnie. He has, interested in putting up a shelter, I believe, so that folks who walk on the ferry have a place to get out of the wind and the elements, when they are going on the boat.
He's proposing a flexible shelter near the museum.
Yeah, big enough for 50 people, which strikes me as perhaps more than is needed. Although there are times when there are 50 people, I think, getting on the ferry.
It's something that wouldn't blow away. I can't imagine. You can't keep a screen door on there from blowing off, so.
Sorry, I was just gonna take it off your hands, you're good.
I don't have any firm thoughts on this particular proposal or, I don't know. Shay, sounds like you have a thought.
I have thoughts that are probably disruptive and not, that need, greater consultation. But I guess I am, I know we have a lot of things in storage in the shed,
Boathouse.
in the boathouse. I know the lighthouse committee is working on the lighthouse, but there's also kind of a lot of recommendations and things that are happening kind of with what needs to happen with the lighthouse in the long term. And I'm just wondering, as we think about the municipal building project, if we should think about kind of, I don't know if maybe some of the things that are in the boathouse could, I'm just wondering if there's a way that we could look at the structures that are down there in meeting this need in a more long-term way, rather than building kind of a more immediate short-term shelter.
Yeah, I guess the one thing that came to my mind is that if we're building something only at the lighthouse to house people, then it's not that far from the existing ticket booth, which really can house people and keep people out of the elements. And the only place I think it could be better if it was right at the, at the loading point of the ferry at the ramp, but there's no real place to do that without a significant amount of work, or displacing, essentially the line where you have a lot of people park at the end who are fishing usually.
Is there a way that, you could have a screen on the inside of the terminal, where people can get their tickets and stuff like that, and there's restrooms, and all of that is much better for people to be covered there than out in the elements with wind and everything else. If there was a screen where they could see more clearly, just have a simple camera. Yeah, so that they could see, it's time to load the fare, it's time for walk-ons or.
Even something that the crew could, like a light the crew could turn on from the boat,
Yeah,
or radio
time
to
for-
say, hey, it's time, we'll take people.
Yep.
So if the weather's really bad, folks are not waiting out in the
Yep.
snow.
And then there could be a sign near the lighthouse that says, there's a waiting room with screen and information, back at the terminal, so they could go, they could be alerted that they could go in there and safely and not miss the ferry, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I feel like as long as it's done in conjunction with the crew, the biggest thing is you don't want people there waiting in the ferry to leave without them.
Yeah.
That would make
That would
me
be-
unhappy.
Good.
Well, wouldn't you have to get permission from the ferry service? to do
Yeah.
that?
Yes, yeah.
And wouldn't there be a limit in the number of people? I don't think you could get 40,
Occupancy.
50 people in that.
That's a good point, because there's a lot of school kids that would be, that's a very good point.
So
And I
there
do
are
like
gonna be,
variety.
there are gonna be limitations to whatever structure.
Mhm.
And I guess if that was a workable solution and the limit was 30 people, I think that solves 99% of the times that somebody wants to wait inside.
Cause they could still wait in the bus, if it's the
Right.
kids and the teachers.
And I think a lot of people who are walking back and forth, if it's that awful that they really can't be outside, they probably didn't come to work that day. Or at least not in numbers
that's a
enough
good point.
to justify that many people in the ticket booth. But
Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that I like both ideas working in tandem, because if there's a way to utilize the boathouse, it's just set back.
Yeah.
So it might be unsafe and it might not be.
Yeah, I wouldn't put a lot of people in
yeah,
there, cause it
yeah.
does have a pier issue that we're trying to address. Right now it has signs and I can take a picture, or you can pop in.
Yeah,
Got tools and lawnmowers and this and that.
we should probably take a step back and I think just thank Lonnie for thinking about stuff like this. I mean, I think that is, it's a very nice thing to have crew on the ferry who are actively thinking about making the service better and making it nicer for folks who are, riding the ferry. So that's a really nice thing that I think is commendable, sort of regardless of which direction this heads. And just thinking about the issues that she sees as she's working on the ferry is a very helpful thing, I think, for the town and the ferry service generally.
and can I ask, is it, the people that are show up early and the boat offloads and they can't go on until they get their ticket clipped, but if there was another system, they could go on first and then the cars could come on. I mean, I know they wouldn't like that, but if it's inclement weather or something like that, you see what I mean? If there's a way that we could combine all of these things, to help the pedestrians.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I think now you can go on between the cars,
Yeah,
but it's not as a matter of policy, the way it has to happen, right? They will let anybody walk on as long as the cars aren't loading
yeah.
at that time, I think, right?
But they're pretty, we pretty much want people, which doesn't make sense, cause it's hard to get through if the boat's full. It seems like probably the last boat is the biggest, maybe the last two, but then I came off this afternoon, there probably were 50 people standing there by the museum. And now I think they kind of stay there to get their ticket
Mhm.
punched, and if they were over by the
Terminal. Yeah.
they either have to go back over there and.
Wouldn't that be more convenient maybe we shouldn't continue this discussion now, but it's fun to think about if there isn't a solution where if they're in the terminal or under the cover of the terminal, outside, then they can get their tickets punched right there and,
So I think part of the trouble is we're working with a ticketing system that's not great.
yeah.
And that it makes very little sense to have somebody up at the ticket booth scan, and it's really hard to control who gets on the boat and make sure you've got everybody's ticket scanned unless it's at the point of entry to the boat and the person on the ferry can scan, which seems like it would make, that's not the conversation we're having right now, but I think that would solve some of the problem where you're just trying to get people there, but then they still have to scan when you get to the ferry, and it creates the queue of people as you try to shield, your phone from the light so they can scan it, or, stuff that can make that process slower. So that's a different question, but sort of related in terms of, I don't think it was well thought out when they put the new ticketing system in place, how it was going to work. And now you have situations where folks get on the boat for free because there's no one there scanning tickets because they showed up really late and they're rushing to get on. And there's the people on the ferry can't scan, stuff, so stuff like that. That's a broader conversation about the flow of people on and off the ferries and how that can work most effectively. But that's, a shelter for people who are going on the ferry is part of that issue.
And, maybe we should convey to Lonnie, first of all, her appreciation, but also, I don't know that, we can put a building in front of the lighthouse. Wouldn't that be a problem in terms of the
Yeah,
lighthouse
a couple
being
of
remaining
problems,
its own
yes.
thing?
Yeah, I can see that might be a couple of concerns there, but if it was just, I like it, wish it could be down near the generator, you know, on the pier, like a break, windbreak or something.
You could certainly, it would just be expensive to try to put something down there.
Yeah.
If you, I mean, unless you can either take away parking spots and the ability to drive down, and that really limits you to have one lane, so you can't, because now you can have people park on one side and people can still get out. And if you block that off, then you might not be able to have more than one car there without someone being stuck. Which is, that would just be a large change that I imagine wouldn't be well received, but it's not that it's impossible. But you could also fill in the gap between the ramp and the existing pier to make a spot for pedestrians to wait, but that I think would be very expensive.
Yeah.
It would be more than putting a shelter up.
No, I agree. In talking with, some of our crew that commuted, it does seem like it's an issue that arose from the ticketing system, whereas before when it was in front of whether they have people waiting in their cars. So,
And then you can walk down, you just hand your ticket, and you go right on.
right, so, I mean, I do think, I think it is, I agree, I think it's great of her to recognize the problem and try to identify a solution, and I think, we should kind of continue to have a conversation to figure out what makes the most sense.
And I think, Jan, do you want, is this to you, right, Jan? Yeah, do you want to respond to
Yeah, I
Lonnie,
will,
just,
thank her. and-
yeah, convey the thanks from the select board of just thinking about these issues, and we agree, we're trying to think about how best to solve the problem, but appreciate the input, and I think perhaps it wants to be part of just a broader conversation with the ferry service about setting up a flow on and off the ferry that works better than it does now.
So is that something, how then do we proceed to follow up on this? Is that something that,
I think probably John King, who's the town representative on the Ferry Service Advisory Board, is the next one to bring into the loop, and just, and it's an interim. There's interim management at the ferry service right now, so it's a little bit difficult to, I think, work on this type of issue, with folks who are only there for a very short period until someone else shows up.
right,
So probably, and also, this is more of an issue, I know it's a rain issue too, but I think the issue is more when it's really cold, than when it's raining. So I think that this is not quite as pressing right now, because it's gonna be summer here soon, it's starting to warm up.
so the message to Lonnie is we aren't gonna drop it. We'll pick it back
Yeah,
up.
I think
Yeah,
we're
and I'll
gonna
send
loop
a
in
copy
the-
to you and John King.
Yeah, loop in
So
the
she'll
advisory
know.
board, and I think, and I haven't talked to others about this issue, but I wonder if this is not an Islesboro only issue.
Yeah, I don't know what the other islands look like, if their terminal is
Yeah.
right
We
down
We
there.
periodically have, conversations like subcommittee meetings with folks from North Haven and Vinyl Haven, and I'll ask them if they are having a similar experience with just the flow change getting on and off the ferry, and whether the e-tickets are, problematic for that.
I think that part of the thing that also spurred this is when we talked to John King about it, if it's not just a shelter, but also a staging area. Because 2 different times we've been at the front of the ferry and had to watch them. When we dock, all of the workers that are trying to come in, there's such a flood of them. That now the big trucks are stopping because they can't get past people.
Right.
And so they're having to walk them all the way back down to the lighthouse because they're not listening. Or doesn't want to go on the dock. And it was 2 days back to back. And it was the exact same group of people. And so I think she would also like to, if we could do it as, this is where you go up, this is where you wait. You get scanned and go, and then it's not, well, I'm not gonna wait in my car. Cause then you have the shelter, you have this, and it helps provide it where it keeps them off of the walkway. I'm sure the kids are bad about it too, it just happened to be the 5 o'clock that we were coming back from, or 4 o'clock. And so, but if they're having to stop traffic to move pedestrians, it's not helping with the flow of anything.
Yeah.
And so they do need a staging spot.
So perhaps let's respond to Lonnie, loop John King in on the conversation and maybe put it on the agenda for not the next select board meeting, but in 2 meetings, or perhaps 3.
Or maybe even invite.
You're trying to get out.
Right?
What is I don't even know when May 13th.
We're keeping you dark.
I think we have a special meeting.
Today's the 12th, so one.
Like the
So
10th,
there's only 2, there's only 2 between now and the town meeting.
right.
Well, we could take it up on Columbus Day. You'll be long
Why don't we have a special select board meeting?
That's what you need.
Ooh.
Let's do it in 2, then I'll be on the select board then, not the next one, but the one after, and then.
Do you want to, if we don't hear back anything from anybody, you still want to have it or just?
We'll just put it on the agenda, and if there's nothing to report, there's nothing to report, I mean, that's fine.
And could we mention to John King, the idea of maybe a monitor inside the terminal building? Is there something where people could be housed in a terminal building and before they go down to the some of our options that we just discussed?
Is the ferry terminal building still limiting the amount of people inside for?
I'm sure there's
Other
a
agents.
capacity limit.
Well, but they've
Well,
had a
they
low
were
limit of like
limited,
three
3?
people waiting to buy tickets.
And I think the sign's still up.
I'm not sure. I know Linda was wearing a sort of a mask this morning. But I didn't see anyone else. in there.
Well, it's partly due to Holly,
Oh, yeah, but these, I think
It's
a
a-
lot of these people won't want to, because they might be
other people, yeah.
having a cigarette or might be doing something, so they might not want to be in the building.
Not gonna be in my shoulder either.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we don't want people
Right.
smoking in a
Those are, those
shelter.
own people's problems.
All right, so I think we've got that. Any thoughts on that, on the shelter, and on this email before we move on? Hearing none, moving on, old business finalizing the town manager contract, thank you for sending this around here. I believe this is a copy of what was the same as what the last contract
Correct,
was.
yeah, I just changed.
I am. I mean, I'm fine with this as it stands. Does anybody have any corrections or changes to the contract? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the employment agreement, as written.
So moved.
Moved by Phil,
Second.
second by Lauren. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
I think you have an original there that could be signed, it's probably,
I was gonna sign right now, is that right?
yeah, that's great, then we
Today
can
is the 12th.
put this to bed.
It's April.
Contract doesn't get that until a year, right, Karen?
Yes, it ends in the fiscal year. June 30.
Islesboro looking ahead, I'm still not prepared for that, but I will get it done before my time on the select board is over, which is apparently, it's only 2 more meetings this year now.
I have a question regarding that.
Yes.
There's no mention of the municipal building project, and I don't know if that's not necessary since it's something that was passed by the town or.
When you say in the Islesboro looking ahead?
Yeah.
So I don't believe that there is any hard and fast rule about what should or shouldn't be.
Oh, I agree.
So I think that the municipal building project is certainly a topic of importance to the town that is over the past year, and the only question is, we talked at the last meeting about perhaps paring down what the Islesboro looking ahead is to make it not so much of a daunting task to review and revise, but there's no question that the municipal building project is a very important issue that's.
Yeah, I understand both points. I just wanted to raise it to make sure that if we wanted to include it, it's a pretty big part of what the town is about.
Yeah, it's like nothing has been done to it yet.
No.
So this is the time, Lauren, you may have a job.
I mean, usually it's the chair of the select board that drafts Osborne looking ahead. However, I don't think there's a hard and fast rule on that either. And if someone else wanted to take the first stab at Osborne looking ahead, sounded like we may have had a volunteer already.
Love it.
Just saying.
Are you willing to take the first stab at a revision of Osborne looking ahead, Lauren?
Oh,
Again, this is something that gets reviewed and approved by the entire board, so it's.
oh, no, I know that. I'm just thinking, yes, I could give that a shot.
I don't know if we need a motion to that effect. I don't think we do. Moved by Melissa, second by me. All in favor. Because you do such a good job. with it.
Yeah, you're such a good writer.
You'll learn.
Time's running out on that.
Thank you for tackling that one. It's been on my list for a while, but has yet to percolate to the top.
I will send you it in Word.
Okay, that'd be great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Next on the
That was the
agenda.
last, what was it one, is it?
Yes.
No, it looks like it's edited from last year.
I don't think so. I
I
wrote
don't
some
think that I had edited it this
Okay.
year. Last year, but that was, new business. Approve the final FY 24 budget and looking at the the totals that Dan has put together from the past, 5 years. This year would be roughly a reduction of $90,000 from last year's budget in terms of, not in terms of what the budget actually is, because we have undesignated fund balance using to offset. So it's actually a little bit bigger of a budget by, 60,000, but it's gonna be lower because we're using $100,000 to offset. We've gone from 2020 to 3.1 million, 3.1 million in 2021, 3.35 million, 2022. We had a jump up in 2023 because we used a lot of money in, the last couple of years to bring the budgets down. And if you look at the bottom, or the top line of the budget, I should say, from 2021, it was a little more than 4 million, 2022, almost exactly 4 million, 2023, 3.93 million, 2024, 3.99 million. We have had a pretty flatline budget for the past 4 years, which I think is good. And some of the changes that you see in terms of what the town has to raise, an undesignated fund revenue balance, is related to whether contingencies happen or don't happen, whether the budget gets spent or doesn't get spent. And I do think that's a good way to budget, and so that people have money to cover the eventualities that happen from time to time, and then use the money to offset. I think we're in good shape, it looks to me, but my 2 cents on the budget in general. Any thoughts on the budget before we take a vote? Changes, this is your last, it's not your last chance, actually.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Tell town meeting, you mean?
Till town meeting. It's happened quite a few times that I can remember that folks have changed.
Generally, it goes up, which always surprises me.
Yes, usually someone wants to appropriate money for a particular thing, and from time to time, there's no one to spearhead the task of doing the thing, but it happens. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the FY 24 budget. Moved by Phil, second by Melissa. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? The budget's approved, great. That is a good thing to be done, to get done. Approve and sign, the annual town meeting warrant for May 13th, 2023.
I've given you all a new copy, that one that says revised at the top, because the school's articles changed. No amounts or anything changed, but the Stockmeyer, their attorney, wanted things put in a different sequence. So this is with the revised,
They're different from all the other years now.
yeah, like. Okay, Sal. So anyway, it's in the correct, but I thought you'd be confused if it was in a different.
I don't think the select board plays a role in deciding what the articles are for the school, so I'm inclined to just
No.
not even consider that change. Does anybody have any thoughts, questions, concerns, discussion regarding the warrant articles?
I have a question about the school one. Just the yellow one, we have two pieces of paper.
It's the summary,
Yeah,
is there supposed to be three?
I have two, and the totals are different on both of the pages, because one of them includes debt service and one of them doesn't, and so I'm just trying to figure out.
I thought one, the summary had only 2 pages.
Yeah, and the summary from the first page to the second page is different, and I'm just trying to figure out if I'm losing my mind or not.
Maybe did I give you 2 of the same pages? Possibly?
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Mm.
I
So
think
one
it is
has the
because
debt
one has the debt
evidence.
service.
Okay, so we just disregard the back page, right?
I think the back page looks to me like it's probably the operating budget
Without the debt.
without the debt,
Yeah.
that,
Thank you. I'll run with your answer. I'm happy with that.
I
answer.
log page 12, that's the only reason I know, that's. Their budget is down 6.22%.
Mhm.
That's great, so it's highlighted.
The
there.
school's budget's down.
So,
Well, I can
This-
understand they're
I think
using
it's a revenue.
It's offsetting with undesignated fund balance.
400,000, I think I heard,
I
or,
wonder. Need to go back.
Yeah,
to-
right
I
there,
need to
number-
go back to our budget.
oh,
I do.
before you ask anything, can I ask a clarification
Yes,
question?
please.
Why wouldn't the number on page 12
hey, don't
match
ask
this
me,
number? Okay,
unless there's a page 3. That's,
Shay?
I think there's only page.
explain to me what I'm missing. Why doesn't 12 match the top page yellow? Or the second page
I
yellow?
hate the school,
I'm sorry.
summary. You need someone from the school board.
I know that, so it looks like
Is it because it
On
doesn't
page
have
2,
revenues
the
on the
operating-
yellow?
I'm assuming so. Hmm,
I'm trying to think of
well,
tuitions and
they,
stuff, okay.
well, the
No,
tuition, they've got they've got a fund balance, and I think that's where a lot of
That's
that.
where the gap is.
Yep.
Okay.
money.
Hey, that's okay, I'm just gonna put you on the spot, because as long as somebody can explain it to me in a way that almost makes sense, I'm happy.
So when we were taking up our budget, I think we were in the position where we thought the school was going to have a small increase of 2 to 3%.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which is now not the case.
Correct.
And with the town's budget going down and the school's budget going down, I question whether the town ought to either not use the $100,000 of undesignated fund balance and keep that money in undesignated fund balance, or appropriate more money for something like paving, because it's a unique spot where I do not believe the school is going to be in a position to write off that much money every year going forward.
Ever again.
Right, so I suspect that you may, you could keep the budget flat still and have money set aside for something. And the choice is, keeping the budget flat, or have it go down now and seemingly spike next year, although not spike, it would just be the correction of 2 years of increases not offset by undesignated fund balance, which is no longer available. So I don't know that we need to make a change right now. And in fact, I can see that perhaps it's not the best time.
Well, yes,
I'm reading between the lines here. But
sorry,
It's going to press.
tomorrow, but I mean, if you're going to do that, I would rather you did it now. And we go through this little roll, instead of doing something you talk about, maybe at town meeting, making a motion to
yes,
reduce.
that's the other alternative.
That's the other alternative. It's kind of nice to have it in the warrant. For future reference. I mean, it will be in the minutes, results of the town meeting. It would say voted not. Well, we don't have a separate article that says taking $100,000 out of undesignated fund balance. Or if you just wanted to increase
Reserve,
something by 100,000. Oh, it's half a dozen of one. I'll have to make several changes, but, I mean, tomorrow really is my deadline, tomorrow afternoon.
Well, I think if we can't agree tonight on a final budget with that change, I don't think we want to do, I don't. But I would be prepared to cut the $100,000 undesignated fund balance offset that we have voted into the budget this year. I would be prepared to get rid of that. It's still gonna be a reduction in the
That would be
overall.
reducing the revenue, and then
That's
that
right.
changes,
Yes, there are gonna be
everything.
things that change.
yeah,
Yes, it's gonna be more than the budget that changed, not all the warrant articles, but some of the warrant articles have to change.
well, maybe just the revenue would be reduced. So that message reduces what you're gonna take away from the budget.
I just think we're better off saving that money to either offset next year to try to keep things a little bit flatter. It doesn't help anybody to have things go up and down, up and down. I think keeping a flat line budget is better overall, because I don't believe it's reasonable to think that we're gonna have those reductions next year, so. And perhaps if the school budget's final, I mean.
Who
I
knows at
don't-
town meeting what could happen to them?
Well,
Historically,
the school has, this is maybe neither here nor there with respect to the town, but I don't think it would be unreasonable to the town meeting, make the change that, I think you said 400,000 is from undesignated funds, that perhaps something like 200,000 of that goes to a contingency fund for the school that can do something like repair the roof or whatever else they might have.
I don't think that wiped out there. I think it's gonna be interesting. I don't think it wiped out there. So they still have done some stuff. They can't have wiped out it completely.
Do you have any idea about, that doesn't really matter,
No.
it's outside the scope of what the select board decides. However, the overall budget and effect on the town, I think, is something worth considering. So to the extent that we ought to do something about that, my thought is perhaps we ought to take the $100,000 out of the budget that we've used from our own contingency fund and have the budget be a little bit higher. Although it will still be a significant decrease from last year overall, with the school's budget being down that much.
How much do we know how much the county's going up?
It went up
We do-
68,000. Where is that summary?
Relatively.
Yeah, relatively small. Up, but not up big. I think last year was a big increase at the county level. I mean, it's a time when you could put money away for something and have it not impact someone's pocket compared to last year, that's all.
that's still otherwise it's going to be continue to be, we need to have more money in that line over time, so maybe that's a good way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to that, although I would, in doing things like this, I know we don't control each other's budgets and it's very complicated, I think, on both sides, but I generally would prefer more coordination than we currently have in order to feel like we're able to responsibly,
Right. Right, it feels like not the best conversation for us to talk about making a motion to change the school's budget at the town meeting, like, that's not a useful way to have a discussion about town budgets.
yeah, and I think that there are some things that they need to make some corrections to in order to, I think there's a reason why there's that fund balance, larger fund balance contribution.
Right, that's a one-time. They're correcting, like you said, something that's.
There's a lot we don't know about this.
Right.
I'm saying, not we, maybe, perhaps not others, but there's a lot I don't know about the school's budget, for example, how long this has been building in
For 2 years.
2 years.
So, realize of the COVID money.
COVID money.
And so, there's been a lot of very interesting conversations about it. I'm of more of the thing that we worked on our budget, we're comfortable with our budget, we're happy with where it is. I'm not inclined to change ours to add anything to it. Cause I think that, like Shay said, there's going to be a lot more that happens with the school and the school budget and what they are going to have to deal with the town. And so focusing solely on ours, I'm very comfortable with ours and the number that we put forward.
I'm also fine with that. I'm not against that, and
We put a lot of work into it. We were very comfortable with the number, you know, if it was. I think it's gonna be a very large spike next year for the school,
yes.
and looking at that, I don't know, it's half dozen of one to six of another. Do you provide a little bit of relief this year in anticipation of the very large incoming spike, or?
That's
Right.
possible. Like, does the
Or do
town
you keep
plan
it
to save an extra $100,000 to offset its own budget last year, knowing that the school will spike next year?
Right, which is what you're suggesting.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I think that's what we have control over. I wouldn't be opposed to doing that this year, recognizing that we will have some large capital expenses coming down the pike, and it will be helpful to have additional revenues in the future from our undesignated balance, although, you know, I do, you know, I don't want that pot to get too large and get into a situation where it feels like we just have a huge fund balance
Right.
that, you know, we're raising money that we're not putting out there to work for community needs.
Right. Yep, that's obvious, that's a good term too. Thoughts from this side of the room, Warren, Phil?
Of course, the budgets are not my strong suit. But it does seem to me that, what Shay was just saying makes sense. We don't want a big, it doesn't, I don't think look good to the public if you all of a sudden have these fluctuations. So if there's a way in which we can put a certain amount away now for next year, that makes sense to me.
Phil,
I think we're just trying to avoid the inevitable.
what's the inevitable, the budget going up?
Mhm.
So there is the reality that if we don't do anything, the taxes will be lower for people next year, right? And then the reality after that is the comparison is gonna be like this
Widening.
instead of like this, right? So that's, you know,
Yeah, well, not in this budget, we'll have the interest on the municipal building
Yeah.
bond, and then the year after, it will be a principal and an interest, so
Yeah.
it will be probably, what did Vern say, around 300,000, 250, 275,
That's an annual thing.
for 20 years, probably, how many years?
And how much we're saving, like $30,000 a year by paying off the solar from what we have now.
Yeah, and then we'll see an increase in the amount that we, from our bills, for the power. You know, it'll be less,
increasing revenue,
increasing,
Yeah.
or not even,
Or reduce-
decreasing costs.
Reduce
reduce
costs.
costs, yeah.
We're not selling it, we're just offsetting. I don't think there's a great answer here. I'm comfortable changing it, I'm also comfortable leaving it. Anybody wants to make a motion to either effect, vote on it. Or if no one wants to make a motion, then it'll stay as it is.
I move that we make the change that the wording of which I go with what Dave.
So just to be clear, I think what we're talking about is removing the $100,000 offset from the undesignated fund balance, which is going to increase the town budget by $100,000.
Correct.
So you're back to the budget now.
Yeah.
All right. So you already approved it, once, you can go back.
Motion on the floor from Lauren,
Second.
second by Phil. Is there any discussion about this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Good. Melissa too, it's unanimous, or we?
Yeah.
Melissa too, all right, it's unanimous, so we're gonna make that change. So if Janet, you could reflect that is we have a prior motion approved on the books, approving the budget. We're gonna have to walk that one back. Who made the initial motion?
To approve the budget?
You
Phil.
I did. I withdraw the
Thank you,
motion.
Carrie.
know, Phil withdraws his motion, initial motion, and now here we are with the budget, with that one change. We also have annual town meeting warrant articles to approve. Some of these are going to have to be changed. Can we go ahead and go through this and change them right now? And
Well, I think wouldn't it just be the revenue?
I think so.
I mean, under page, I don't know what page number it is. Source of funds, ABC, undesignated fund balance, I'm just gonna delete.
Yeah, so Article
Article
13.
13, so revenue total is 486, 370.
FY 23 budget. So is that wrong above? It should be FY 24 proposed budget, not FY
Excuse
20.
me, yes, you are correct.
Okay, so
Good
let's,
catch.
let's change that, and then this is actually gonna be 0. I'm gonna 0 this out, and to the extent that you want to print out a corrected page that reflects this, so it's neater, that's fine with me, but I'm comfortable signing it as it is and leaving it with the handwritten correction on there.
No, I will correct that.
Okay, sounds
Yeah.
great.
Is,
No, just that. So.
Approve the budget, move it.
Now to approve the warrant articles as amended. And I think Janet can just print out the one page. I've handwritten in the corrections here to be clear about what we're voting on,
That's Article 13.
which is just Article 13. And we're changing, well, we're correcting the year above because that's just a typo, and then we're changing the amount to $0. Subject to that correction, I would entertain a motion to approve the warrant articles.
So moved.
Moved by Phil,
Second.
second by Warren. Is there any discussion about these warrant articles?
Nope.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Warrant articles are approved. So despite the change, we managed to persevere with the warrant like this.
Thank you.
Consider increasing Grindle Point sticker fees. I saw this email go out, whenever that was, earlier this week or last week. Proposed change to personal island from $2 to $5, off island $10 to $20, commercial 25 to 75. Second, 150, no change, off island commercial 300, no change.
I'll talk with Tina about these because she's the one that sees them the most.
I mean, do we know how much it costs to make one of those stickers for the window?
Oh, the placard, I don't know, but we've used it many years because it's been, you could look at it, it's been, I don't know individually, I think we had to buy 500.
Yeah.
So we have a lot left, that's why we just put the year on and people come in and give you $2 just to get a little sticker, they don't get a new placard every time, so.
I don't know, $5 for a year's worth of parking is still
Well, this is just
really cheap.
a draft. That's why I said, we didn't want to get going on this because this is gonna start June 15th, so first of June, we want to be able to put out.
Who made the initial recommendation about the changes? Are you happy with the $5 for personal?
Because then we cranked it up on the commercial and the only other thing that we talked about was Islander versus non-Islander.
For
Resident,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know, I've lost my page that has all on it. But
So it's curious, it looks to me like there are 0 off-island personal parking passes.
oh,
I see no number in there,
Correct. I
so
mean,
we're not gonna, that's not gonna move the needle.
no, then in that case, I think that it should go up. I think it should be 10 and 20.
If you take the numbers that were sold in 2022
Mhm.
and compare the two, the current to the change, it's a $700 difference.
Not a lot, but it's not gonna move the needle on the town's budget a lot, but I think that it's still a worthwhile thing to change.
I do, I look to do it to 10 and 20. And then 75 for first island, second island, 150.
We need a motion to approve, so
So what did you say for, instead of 5, you said make it 10?
10.
I'd entertain a motion to approve, subject to the $10 change for the island personal rate.
And 20 for the second, was that?
Yeah,
Right,
the only-
off island if they sell me.
Yeah, the only thing that we're talking about changing is the first, line. $10. Well, your motion. Moved by Melissa, second by Phil. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Sticker fees are increased.
Well, it'll be interesting to
Percentage-wise,
see how many we sell.
But if not, then the big part of the revenue was the,
Yeah,
Tickets
that's
off
where
of
the
it.
money comes in, tickets.
so. There's endgame. Now they're gonna pay to get the things, so they stop getting tickets. Not the other way around.
$10 is still very
So-
much less than a single ticket.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that that is going to deter a lot of people, the change from $2 to $10. We'll see, but. We could have an 80% reduction in buyers. And generate the same revenue. Well, it'll be just a.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I'm so
data
happy with
point-
it.
Data point there. Okay, I think that's good. Anyway, moving on. Approve opening new Camden National Bank account for municipal building project. Janet, do you want to speak to this?
Please, I would love to. This is pertaining to the municipal building project, which you remember back months and months ago, it might have been just January, where I tried to do this again when I thought we might be having
Mhm.
bond, well, the bond anticipation note. And then we didn't, so it just lapsed, since I said, "Hey, we're not gonna be doing that right now," so it just lapsed, so. In talking with the auditor and, preparing for the fall bond bank issue, and, another 1.75 million. I need them segregated. It needs to be in its own. Right now, I've got all these revenue donations, which are in our town account, and it's
Right.
hard to know. And so I need to first figure out when, at the end of April, probably, how much we've spent from the town's money, and then subtract that from what donations, and then push it over to. this
Does it
account.
cost the town anything to open this account?
No.
Sounds great to me. Anybody have any discussion on this point? I'd entertain a motion to approve opening the account.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Melissa, second by Lauren. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
It is approved. Sure, this is for you. Other business. Other business is none. Next on the agenda is approved warrant number 21 for FY 23. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Phil, second by Melissa. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
You need me to sign this too, Janet, just
I think there's two
to
pages.
put boards?
Gave one to Gabe was a copy, and I had one on your desk with a
Yeah,
clipboard.
okay, I need to sign both of it.
Then I'll send it
Okay.
back to them.
Yeah, so that, the one you have in your hand is not the original. That's got a receipt. No, they're both, yeah, that's yours. Doesn't matter. It's on both, I'm sure it'll work out. Okay. Next on the agenda, appointment Ethan Spalding for the Shellfish Conservation. Is it committee, Shellfish
Yeah.
Conservation Committee?
Yeah.
Sounds great. It's always nice to have folks who can get involved. Anybody want to make a motion to approve? Ethan Spalding? By Shay. Second by Phil. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair comments. No comments. Vice Chair comments, Shay,
No comments.
Melissa,
No,
Bill.
Happy with spring coming,
Nice weather today.
yeah, 60 degrees.
And Lauren, who's back,
Glad to be back.
gets the last word.
Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. It looks like we do have an executive session on the books to consider a concealed weapons permit. So with that, I guess we do not adjourn the meeting, but we do have to say goodbye to Carrie and turn off the Zoom call. So for all the folks on the Zoom, thanks for coming.
hi
And-
Maggie and Peter.
And Terry.
Hello. I just know Maggie and.
I just didn't want Terry to feel bad. Have a good night.